Hello and welcome to the Fire Officer Project podcast, a show where we will discuss and learn together about topics specific to the American Fire Service. Come along as we explore areas such as firehouse traditions and culture, the fire family life, leadership, as well as getting yourself ready to be the company officer. This show is for everyone from the rookie firefighter to newly promoted officers. I'm your host, Mark McCurdy. Now let's get on with the show. Hello, welcome to episode 22 of the Fire Officer Project. And this is going to be an episode about something I posted May of 2022. And all it was a piece of paper with a story written on it. And it's called Death by Salt Shaker. And if you remember it, I mean, it's almost 2 years ago now, but kind of the premise, or maybe you've heard this before. It was originally published in December of 2016 in the International Association of Fire Chiefs magazine. And then I got it as an email one day from Fire Rescue News. And I don't always click on those things because we get quite a bit of those kind of advertisements and things like that. But for some reason, I clicked on it and read this article. And I kind of was thinking of something like what to talk about and where to go. And recently I've had some conversations with some people, and they're kind of talking about these little things that go on that kind of snowball effect. So I thought, you know what? Maybe these conversations and this connections I've been having with people recently, this is a perfect opportunity to talk about this. So if you had never looked at it when I posted it back in May, don't worry. You don't need to, because I'm going to read it. Should only take a few minutes here, but at least sets the tone. And then, of course, I have my bullet points, and then we'll go from there. But so this is called Death by Salt Shaker. And I'll just read it for you here. So yes, I am reading a piece of paper, and I know that doesn't sound like how I normally talk, but I'm reading an article here, so just so we can set the tone. All right, Death by Salt Shaker. I recently had the privilege of being involved in a conversation between a couple of salty, in quotes, assistant chiefs from different departments. While I received my information secondary to the original conversation, the salty chiefs and I learned a very basic lesson. These two chiefs were working in a Boy Scout camp. And during their downtime, they were having a conversation about things at work that made them mad. Chief A said he was extremely mad about the cleanliness of the bathroom after the chief of the department complained about it. The lack of toilet paper in the chief's bathroom could be construed as a minor emergency. But Chief B recalled from his military career an incident involving a salt shaker that was left empty. He spoke of a superior officer who asked why he made such a big deal about an empty salt shaker. Chief B explained that yes, anyone can fill the salt shaker, but his point was that this particular insignificant task was assigned to someone. I believe the way he said it was, filling the salt shaker was someone's job. Think about it. If every member of the military failed at one small task of their job, we would have total chaos and lack any sort of organization. If a fire shift can't take care of minuscule tasks such as cleaning the bathroom or filling the salt shaker, what other small tasks are getting missed? This also reflects poorly on the chain of command. Captains and lieutenants' jobs are to ensure the day-to-day operations of a fire department are running smoothly. If not, this reflects poorly on the battalion chief, whose job, again, is to ensure the fire department is functioning every day. Let's talk about chaos. Chaos, defined by Webster's dictionary, is a total lack of organization or order. Synonyms include disorder, disarray, disorganization, confusion, mayhem, bedlam, pandemonium, havoc, turmoil, commotion, disruption, upheaval, uproar, muddle, mess, shambles, free-for-all, anarchy, and lawlessness. You see, an unfilled salt shaker or an unclean bathroom create chaos. Chaos leads to missed air packs or tool safety checks. What if this failure, i.e. chaos, was to lead to misplaced medical equipment on the ambulance? Now we're not only affecting the day-to-day operations, but potentially putting the public at risk. How about the risk to your crews? Do I care that the jump bag has the proper equipment in it? When I need it, I certainly do. Do I care that the drinking water on the truck has been changed or iced down? If it's 101 degrees, I do. Before joining the fire service, I served proudly in the military for 10 years. A lesson I learned from that military career has come full circle and is now a part of my fire service career. Attention to detail seemed like a daily catchphrase in the military. But I remember that a great leader of mine, a first sergeant, once told me, if you depended on a parachute rigger, you would expect attention to detail. He was right. The minor details of whether the risers were stored correctly could lead to devastating consequences. The parachute rigger signed his name, assuring all that this task was done correctly simply because it was his job. So let's dig a little deeper. Would an empty salt shaker kill a firefighter? Not likely, but it could. What if the firefighter who failed to do his job of filling the salt shaker is passed on to other crews 10 years later? What if missed salt shaker firefighter becomes a captain and his get by with the minimum amount of work attitude spreads to his crew? What if that lack of attention to detail leads to a firefighter death? Think about it. The point is that filling the salt shaker, cleaning the bathroom, checking the truck, filling the air bottles, and checking the jump bags are all someone's job. Go to work and complete your job today with as much attention to detail as possible. Do it right. Have pride in everything you do, even the small jobs. Okay, like I said, I read that straight up how it is. It was published in a magazine and has been passed around through different emails and things like that. I pretty much could stop it here and you could come to your own conclusion. You don't need my little analogy of things. But why not? This kind of is the whole thing I've been talking about for over 20 episodes. Attention to detail, small little things. I mean, I'm breaking down small things in detail. That's why I don't really talk about operation stuff, because it's so different depending on where you work, and it's such a wide, vast thing. But this, what we're talking about as the individual, getting yourself ready for promotion, what mindset you have to have. If you've listened to any of my episodes, you know my favorite little term, Captain Good Times. Can you hear it coming through there? And believe me, for those of you who haven't and you're jumping in here, if you want to go back and explain or listen so you can hear it explained to you, you can. But I'm going to bring it up here and tell you where it fits in and why what I'm talking about, Captain Good Times, isn't what everybody thinks when it comes to being everybody's buddy. So a lot of little things in there that were put in that have to do with detail. And yeah, I get all the time, I'm sure people are rolling their eyes when the question is, did somebody check the medical equipment on the ambulance? Well, I know. Insert whatever piece that works for you. It's a story to try to come to a point. So I read that and I write down things and I keep writing and I keep writing. By the time I get my bullet points, I got both hands on the crayon here trying to scribble ideas real quick. It got down to 2 pages. But do I need to comment on this, or can I just push stop now and you kind of take away from it? Yeah, sure. But let me put it in perspective a little bit. Also with this one, I'm not going to get too excited, or I'm going to try to keep it clean. Because I have talked to a few people recently that have stated that they have kids that maybe want to get into the fire service and they're kind of letting them listen to something in the car or sports. So I might delve a little bit into family stuff where this kind of can be a clean family type episode as well. It's going to be fire service based, but I definitely have examples of what I just read and how it pertains and how I parent as well, and trying to explain to my kids who are 11, 13, how these type of little details can affect your life, or will affect your life, positive or negatively. So I'm going to keep it clean. So if you want to let your kids listen to it, there you go. All right. So like I said, I've had some recent conversations and all this stuff is ticking up. I'm nearing 22,000 downloads just on the 22 episodes I have. Thank you very much. That's all I can say. Thank you. thank you for listening and trusting and taking your time to listen to what I have to say. And, I promised all kinds of things where I'm trying to do this class and do this. And believe me, I'm doing it in the background, and it's just trying to figure out the best way because everybody's busy. Everybody's got things going on, and I'm trying to find the right angle to make it work. That's going to be productive not only for myself, but for other members. So still working through all that, what's going to be the best way. And ultimately, I think the best way, and I'll lay it all out in another episode, what I've done recently in the background, but I think it's almost going to get down to where it's just individual coaching or instructing at an individual level. It seems to be the best way. But this platform and interviews with individual coaching and consulting or whatever you want to call it for departments like a one-day class, probably going to be the wheelhouse that I can handle, number one, and number two, that was going to get the best effect. So anyways, I go back. Let's see. So these conversations I've had from people are they're just reaching out. I think maybe once in a while, maybe it's just to see if I'm actually truthful about, will I call somebody back or text them or send them more information? Like I've said in other episodes, you bet I will. And that's however you get hold of me, email, Instagram account, whatever. And I see it, believe me, I'm just another person on the end of this microphone, just like you, who can easily do this. And then it's cool just to reach out for people. And a lot of times they're asking questions of advice or guidance, or maybe it's just they want to talk to somebody who's outside of their circle that has no affiliation with them, doesn't really know them, and they just want to bounce some ideas off and maybe confirm some things that they're doing. That seems to be a lot of it too, which is great. I'm totally down with that. You won't hear me calling you back when my kids are playing a softball game, whatever, but we'll schedule a time and we'll make that work. It's been great. Let's see here. What am I thinking? So there was one line on here that stated, captains and lieutenants' jobs are to ensure the day-to-day operations of a fire department are running smoothly. If you had to make a definition and you took the job description of what it is, that's the all-encompassing definition. Sure. But that, first off, you should already know that. If you're a captain or a lieutenant or whatever you call it, and you're working towards it or you're already there, that is your job. Like we hear in my department all the time, we're the backbone of the department. Yeah, I guess. I understand what they're saying. But you are, to a degree. I mean, you know what? I do agree with it. You're the backbone to a degree of what you can influence. Because a lot of stuff comes our way that we just have to do, right? We're just told to do it. And it's how you deliver that message. But number one starts with you as a captain. Let me just use that term, captain. You guys can have whatever supervisor you have is what it is. But if you can't do the basics in the office, put people on duty, staffing, take care of your members administratively, and you can't even hold a lineup on time or in a proper way, and you can go back and listen to other episodes of what my opinion of that is. Well, that's one step administratively. You can't take care of your people. You think people don't know that? Like if you screw up their pay, you're putting them on duty to pay them, you should expect them to be pissed. It's not that difficult, right? Unless you have some really complicated system, but I highly doubt it. And that's one side, right? That's the first thing I go to because that's how our day usually starts. But prior to that, you should be checking out your gear. Are you? And when I say these things, I'm not saying it from standing on a soapbox pointing down at you because I do it all the time and I'm awesome. Heck no. A lot of what I talk about here is self-reflection as well. Big time. That's all it is, right? It's my opinion with self-reflection, times I've screwed up, and I'll throw myself under the bus. I don't do it all the time. I try to aim for it, which is all we can do is aim to be as perfect as we can be. Sure. But if you're not checking out your gear on a daily basis and making sure everything's squared away, you're just inviting trouble. You're asking for karma to show up and be a problem. Definitely, this job is out of our control at all times. Our job is to try to get it back under control. And as a supervisor, you have the all-encompassing of helping to make those decisions individually as a single engine company on a certain incident or a truck or whatever, or when we all come together on a big incident, you got your friends there to help you to help make decisions too. But you know what I'm getting at. So if you can't even check your gear out, you just kind of plop your gear there, and maybe your radio battery's good, and maybe everything's set up right, and you're just rolling the dice. Well, you're inviting problems. Number one, you're inviting that risk. And number two, you think your crew doesn't notice that? You don't think they notice that you don't check out your stuff? Well, I'm telling you they do. So when you try to enforce anything, how much weight do you think you have? If you can't even do those mundane, basic things that you did as a firefighter or whatever rank you, well, I'm going to start there, right? Most of us start out as firefighters and then we climb up the ranks. If you did it then, why aren't you still doing it now? You asked to do this job. You asked to be put in the supervisor position. You asked to do it for as many years as you can put forward. And overall, I think it should eat at you when you haven't gotten your gear set up right. Now, obviously, you can get a call as you walk in the door, phone rings, something happens, you get sidetracked, you get delayed. It's not perfect every single day in the exact same order. It can't be. But as long as you circle around and get back to it and make it happen, it should be eating at you internally that you didn't set your radio right. You didn't do this. You didn't check on that. You didn't check your air pack. You don't have all your stuff ready on the rig. That should be eating at you before you go work out, eat breakfast, whatever you got to do for that day. If you haven't had the minimum, and I'm talking operations, right? If you're an administrative person right now, it's totally different. I don't really talk about that because that's just not what I'm talking about here. You know, enough to where, let me see. Oh, I've talked about this before in the past, right? I check out my gear, and then when I go back to work tomorrow, I've been off for a couple of days. I don't know what's gone on with the rig. I don't know what's missing, what got added. Stuff happened when I was gone. I don't expect somebody to track me down and go, hey, by the way, we added this, or we removed this, or this is broken, or whatever. That's for me to know, or at least find out. And where I brought this up before in the past, but I've had those instances where I put my gear on, I'm listening to what's going on the app floor, listening to all the conversations, kind of doing my intel and collection of data, finding out who's having a rough day, who's got this going on, if there's any tension that might be going on in the station, or if it's all positive, great. Listening to people's stories about what they did on their days off, and then ask them about it later. Cool. I'm gathering all that intel, right? I'm checking out my equipment, and then I start walking around the rig in open compartments. Do you know what that does to the engineer and firefighters? I don't do it to try to jam them up or make them feel uncomfortable. I do it for me. I'm an operating member on that piece of equipment. That what if I need to run back and get something? What if I need something from them or they need from me that I happen to grab or know where it's on the rig? That's all I'm doing. I'm making sure tools are set where I need them, or just another set of eyes on the rig just to say, hey, is this broken, or what about this? And I'm not there to jam people up. I'm just to circle around and look and go, okay, everything's where I thought it was supposed to be. Everything looks great. And I'm also looking at the amount of work that people put into the rig to where how they set things up. That's huge. I mean, that's huge to look and see the pride that your members of your company have. And you say something to them. Hey, good job here doing that. Good job doing that. It's very easy to get on the freaking complaint train, as I like to say. All right? You know how I know that? Because I've been on it. And I've gotten on there willfully. Don't do it. Try your best not to get on the complaint train. So it's funny, though, because somebody comes, oh, hey, Cap, what are you looking for? Nothing. I'm just checking out the rig to make sure I know where everything's at in case we need something. What if I went and asked you for something to go get off the rig that wasn't there? And I should have known that because I checked it out. Or I go, hey, can you go grab this? And they're like, yeah, it's broken, or we're getting it replaced, or it's in the shop, or whatever. What a bozo. I look like a clown when I don't know that. Especially if it's something obvious. If it's something small or minute that we don't always see, then okay, oh, thanks, I didn't know that. When did that happen? We can follow that up later. But if I'm so off base that every time it's something like that, or I don't even know what the hell's on the rig, idiot. That's my fault. Be an example. Constantly be an example. All right. So reading through that whole thing, when we talk about letting in chaos and all those synonyms, that list of synonyms, that wasn't me. That was reading the article. So, I've talked and had some conversations with people recently that feel like there's disruption, there's laziness. They feel like their station's in shambles a bit. Lawlessness, if you're to lawlessness, then all hell is broken loose, right? Then you got a lot of work to do. And a recent conversation I had we talked about just kind of getting back on track and adjusting, pivoting a few degrees at a slow pace to get back on track. 100%. When I'm talking to people on the phone and giving them some opinions or ideas, or we're just talking through things together, I pick up things from people all the time. And like I said, it's a constant reminder to myself to do well. But Captain Good Times, always my favorite. I should just make a sticker of that. Captain Good Times creates all those synonyms by allowing things to happen, because all they care about, more so, is being everybody's buddy versus being the boss. Captain Good Times, because they want to screw off and not be a supervisor or not take the responsibility of being in charge, lets in disorder, confusion when they don't talk about SOPs or SOGs. They muddle around and mess things up because they're letting chaos come in. Can it lead to anarchy and lawlessness because you don't want to react or make a decision? You bet. Should not get to that. And if it does, don't promote. I'm telling you right now, if you want to be everybody's buddy, you're not doing anybody any favor or the fire service any favors by just being their buddy. Because you want to be a supervisor, you want to tell everybody you're the captain or whatever, great, awesome. We don't need people like that. Now, am I saying you got to be hard-nosed all the time and can't be friends with your coworkers and things like that? No, of course not. You know what I'm saying. When we lean too far into being the buddy, that's when you lose it. And I've talked to people who love the Captain Good Times person. But when you really, really ask them, what do you think of them operationally? Decision making. Do you trust them? Try having that conversation with somebody on an individual basis, not in a group setting. See what they tell you. That might help solidify it for you. Attention to detail matters in all aspects of life. Everything, right? Attention to detail makes things easier. Like I said, I have to remind myself constantly of this. I did it today, even before I push record here. Came in from the grocery store, running a few errands. I have my truck keys in my pocket. I know where they should go. I hang all the keys by the door as we go out the garage for all the vehicles. I even have it labeled, and I know you're saying, nerd? Whatever. I think I'm more organized than I am. But what did I do? I set them down on the island in the kitchen area. And as I sat them down, I told myself, you're breaking a rule that you know. You try to tell your kids constantly. And now I need to remind myself that as I walk out the door to go get my daughter from school today, I didn't put them where they should be. Now, is that a life or death thing? Not at all. But does it eat up time when you don't put things where they should be? You don't have that attention to detail and you're in a rush? Sure. Small, minuscule example. I teach my kids, and I'm trying to instill in them, right? We all have this. Think about your home. If you have kids, or maybe you're a soon-to-be father or mother. My kids are 11 and 13, and I have two girls. You know, they're great kids. They have good examples. They have good grandparents. They have all kinds of family members. They have a lot, right? But they're still people. They're still trying to learn where their piece and how they fit in this world. But it's those little things that I constantly have to remind them. Like they have sports going on. They have school going on. And like today, when they get home, bust out some homework, have a snack, get ready. We have to be at a softball hitting lesson at 4 o'clock. And I tell them, will you leave at 3:30? And I've tested them with this. We're leaving in 20 minutes. Make sure you have your water and the proper clothing and you have your equipment ready to go. And I do it more of like a test, right? As a parent to see how I'm coming through to my kids and trying to teach them responsibility and things. And for months, I would try it. And they would always be just right up to the minute we're supposed to leave. I'm like, hey, I said 18 minutes ago, I said we're leaving in 20 minutes. Oh, and then it's like chaos, right? Running, where's my shoes? Where's this? Where's that? And you do it kind of as a lesson. So for those kids out there, let me listen to this just for 1 second, few minutes. Because you probably might be hearing the same thing from your parents, but now if you hear it from somebody else, maybe you'll listen. And then give your parents credit for finally listening to them. If you put the stuff back where it was, where it should be, guess where it's going to be when you need it? Probably in that same spot, unless somebody's messing with you. But very simple to take chaos and to take stress out of your life. You already have enough stress, right? We all have enough stress in our lives. We don't need to add more to it by creating chaos amongst ourselves by self-sabotaging. Put things back where you have them organized at so that when you go to get them, they're there. Shoes, your water bottle. The biggest thing for me is time management. I tell people that are new company officers, time management is going to be one of the hardest things for you to try to control because it's something new. You're in a new position. You're trying to understand your day, your responsibilities, how things work, getting messages across to people. You can't just tell the guys or tell the crew, hey, I want to be out in 5 minutes, 5 minutes before you want to leave. It doesn't work like that. You know, in certain situations, a phone call happens from the chief or whatever it might be, and you need to be somewhere like now. Then it's all stop and let's go. It doesn't happen too often. Most of the time we operate on a pretty structured schedule. We know what's going on. That's why you have a lineup. And calls and everything else in between dictate and change that. But for the most part, as my example was, we need to be somewhere at 4, 3:30. Yes, our kids have phones. They have a cell phone. And don't get into the parenting thing with me about social media. My kids don't have social media. They don't have any of that stuff. They just have a phone for sport reasons and pictures and whatever. My point is just this. I tell them, okay, after months of trying to tell them to be ready on time, we have plenty of clocks in this house. They never seem to know how to read them or pay attention to them. I ask them now, set a timer on your phone. Try doing that. I have alerts and timers set all over my day. Basically, in about 15 minutes, my phone's going to go off because I need to remind myself to go get my kid because it's Wednesday. They get out early. It's a different time than I'm used to. Plus, our schedule's all over the place anyway. So half the time, we don't even know what day it is of the week if you're a firefighter. So I try to mention that to them. Try that. Set a timer so that you're on time. You relieve some of that chaos and stress by having something help you stay organized. And a couple little points here, and I'll wrap it up. But I was speaking with somebody recently, and we were talking about just getting back on track. And maybe things have gotten away where it'd be very easy. I'll even put myself out there. My crew right now, I don't have anybody on probation. My engineers, the firefighters, none of that. So to say, oh, we need to go train because blank, whatever, needs their training done because they're on probation, I don't have that excuse. And you may not have that excuse or reason to go out and train. But shouldn't we be training anyway? There's so much we need to know about so many different things that the only way to stay sharp is train. But it's not always popular. And you have to find a way to incorporate it without dropping a bomb on people or trying to flex on people or all of a sudden, you know what, the buck stops here, boom, and you're dropping the hammer. Now all of a sudden you're training 2 hours a day and you're running people into the ground because you've had it. I've had it. We're getting back on track. Or whatever it is that you tell people. How well do you think that's going to work? It won't. You know that. Some people try it, and it blows up in their face. But a term that I was told once before by a chief that I respect is constant, steady pressure. And I looked that up, right? Because I'm like, man, did he come up with that? Because that's pretty good. Man, I don't know if he did. But if you type it in, something similar comes up, right, throughout the internet. So it's not like it's some crazy miracle, but it is a good philosophy to follow, I think. So I'll take it that this chief told me, and I'll say it's from him. Constant, steady pressure is the number one way we can use to enforce or change. I shouldn't even say enforce. The way we change the current mentality of things. And you want things to change a little bit, or you want to get back on track because we've shifted slightly, because we've let ourselves be lax. And we've gotten too many shifts with saying, oh, we'll train tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll do this tomorrow. I don't want to disrupt the crew. I still want them to like me, because in the back of our head, all of us want our people to like us, right? You can't come in and be like, you don't care what people think. Let's be realists. But constant, steady pressure to help adjust the way we do things, to get back on track, to keep tradition, to keep the ideologies of the fire service where they're at. And if we're going to stand there and bang on the desk and say that this new generation is changing things and they don't understand, whose job is it to tell them? As an example. Last week I worked in a battalion and a station I haven't worked at in a while. And do all my normal thing. Everything I've talked about in 20-something episodes. Just a normal good day. This station's a little rural-ish, but it has grocery store and things around. So the firefighter goes, oh, I'm the cook today, so I already shopped the day before, and I have stuff for lunch and dinner. Oh, that's awesome. Nice job. I said, wow, that's great. Good heads-up thinking. That's awesome. Except, he said, I just forgot one thing. Okay, no problem. We'll get it. It was something small, but something that needed to be had with his lunch, so no problem. We'll go to the grocery store and get it. And the first thing, and I've heard this multiple places, not just him. I've heard this, and maybe you have this happen in your department, and maybe you're saying, get with the time, old man. But it was, oh no, we don't need to go to the grocery store. I'll have it Instacarted, sent to the station. I'm like, is that free? I know it's not free, but I played dumb. Like I'm this near 50-year-old guy who doesn't know what Instacart is, but I know what's up. No, you just pay a little bit more and somebody goes and gets you X item that you need. And I thought, okay, I appreciate your enthusiasm and newfangled technology, but we're not doing that. We're going to go out, and we're going to train, or we went to the gym. The grocery store is down the street. I go, we'll go to the gym. We'll grab that item at the grocery store. We'll come back and make lunch together. It's that simple. Now, are there times where that can be ideal? For sure. For sure. Great. No problem, right? We've all had that time where like, oh, I needed mayonnaise or whatever the heck it was. And you don't want to disturb the whole crew to go out and get it, but that's what we do. So that's a small detail of what could change and is a newfangled idea. I've never heard of this. And it can have its purpose somewhere. But that day, no. We made it work, cooked 2 great meals. We didn't need to pay extra money to have somebody deliver something to us at the firehouse. Believe me, I've worked in busy firehouses. You can still find time to make food and cook and go to the grocery store. That part, it's up to you. But let's get back to constant, steady pressure. That piece more is all involved with the dreaded, we need to train, but I don't want to tell my crew we need to train and go out and get them out of the recliner or do this, or we're going to do this project at the station. It's okay. Don't come in with the hammer and drop a 180 on them and just all of a sudden, now this is how we're doing things. Because you might have some vacancies in your station because people all of a sudden leave. Or they're not leaving and they want you to go. Eek. That could be tough. All right. A couple more points here. You know how you fix some of this on a constant basis? Once again, this is just me as a medium explaining these things because I've lived it, I've been told it, or I've done it. Mostly I've done this. I wouldn't say something on here that I haven't done. But not only is it constant, steady pressure, to achieve that easily, to adjust, is when you already have high standards. You hold members accountable, including yourself. Of course, number one, you should be holding yourself accountable before you even expect people to have high standards. The only way you're going to have high standards is by holding yourself accountable. Then guiding people, showing them examples with compassion and enthusiasm. How did he come up with this? Believe me, I write all this out before I talk on here. Otherwise, there'd be a lot of, not sure what the heck I'm doing. But that goes for all ranks. You don't need to be promoted or be a supervisor to just do what I just said. To have high standards. To hold others accountable in your rank and above you. It's okay to hold your captain accountable. It's taskily needs to be done. And if you're running up against that and you're a firefighter and you're running up against a Captain Good Times that's driving you insane and you have no out or no way of helping, or if you want a conversation, there's ways to get a hold of me. I'll tell you here in a few minutes. We can talk. But you don't need to be in a specific rank to do everything we just talked about. It's not always easy. But I guarantee you right now, it's not easy. But at the company officer level, if you're not willing to do those two things we just talked about, try your best not to be Captain Good Times. Constant, steady pressure to include yourself and your crew to either change or keep things the way they are. You got to constantly massage and move things, not just to keep them where they're at, too, to keep people on track, to keep people off of punching their ticket and getting on the complaint train. It's not easy. And believe me, I still get on it every once in a while, too. But I'm old enough and far enough down the road in life that I'll even say, hey, guys, sorry, I'm getting off the complaint train at the next exit. As a joke, right? But that's how I get around it. That's how I work through it. Believe me, this stuff isn't easy. It's not easy to say or do. But that's what you're asking to do if you're asking to be in a leadership position. Your overall goal is to teach those who are rising up in the ranks, eventually, to take your job. Because when you go to hang up all your gear and walk out the door, you want to know that you did a good job and that you can walk out into that sunset on your last shift of your last day and know you did a good job. You passed on the knowledge that was passed on to you, all the experiences that you had specifically. You've passed those on, and you can only hope for the best that people will continue on those traditions. And guess what? They're going to make it better. But you need them to keep the foundation, the basis of everything that you've been taught and that the fire service has put together for, a couple hundred years, if that. I'm not going to do a history lesson right now, but you're in that little wheelhouse. It's your job to do that just as much as everybody else's. Right now, it's your window, your opportunity to teach people the best way that you know and the motivated way to continue on this great job. This great career. You're an example to everybody, to everything that you do. Everything you do is an example. The way you walk, talk, how you live your life outside of the fire service. It's not all about just the fire service. It's family as well, depending on where you're at in life. All right, so death by salt shaker, and then, of course, my opinions at the end. I'll give you a little more recent wrap-up here as we close out. And I'll give you all the contact information. All right, let me look at my notes here to make sure I captured everything I wanted. Yeah, looks good. All right, so there's always more to that we can add to the story. And I'm sure there's ideas or opinions that you're thinking about right now. And if you have to go along with this, send it my way. Instagram account is The Fire Officer Project. That's Instagram. Same thing on Facebook, as well as a website, www.thefireofficerproject.com, all spelt out like that. Multiple ways. And the easiest, if you're on Instagram, is just hit the Linktree link, email, the links to the podcast, all that stuff is all in one area. But you can send me a direct message on there as well, and I'll get it. And then we can discuss topics on this or maybe some other subjects you have. Side note, I did start a second podcast with my brother. Has nothing to do with the fire department. It has to do with middle-aged guys who are raising kids and kind of just reminiscing about growing up in the 80s, 90s, and talking about being a dad, being parents, things that we try to do, reminiscing about funny things, and things like that, where we grew up. I grew up in Los Angeles, so we talk about growing up in Los Angeles, and it's just me and my brother. So if you're interested in listening to something completely different, it's called The Counter. It's like the basic premise is a counter, like an old cafe, where you go up to the counter and there'd be people there having conversations or reading a newspaper, having a cup of coffee, having breakfast. Those places still exist. We have a couple where I live. It's kind of cool. And it's The Counter with Mark and Mike McCurdy. Something completely different. So if you wanted to hear something that's not fire service related, eventually I'll start talking some stuff about work, but definitely not the program that we have here going on. So it's just something different completely. Check that out. Let me know what you think about that as well, or anything that has to do with this project itself. If you're looking for individual instruction or guidance, hit me up and we'll work something out as well. Also the same for if you have a academy or a captain's academy or some kind of promotional guest speaking type opportunity. If you think that your department would benefit from that, let me know and we can come up with a program. I already have some programs set up with different hours that we can do, or we can do something completely unique to your department as well. Hit me up from there and get in contact. Otherwise, hope you enjoy the content, and I'll be looking forward to putting out some more. Take care, be safe, and remember, keep moving forward.